For those of you who were at Temple Beth on Shmini Atzeret this year, just a few days ago, it seems like a long time ago, you know that we adapted the traditional Yizkor service as a nod, as an homage towards what we were experiencing in the Jewish world in the 24 hours after the last living hostages were released from Gaza. And we added 3 blessings that we normally do not say at Yizkor. We added the bracha of Shechianu, the Jewish blessing par excellence to thank God for bringing you to a day you were not guaranteed to ever witness. We said the bracha of Matir Asurim, which a Jew says every morning as part of the morning blessings, but thanks God for releasing those who are bound and who are captive. And we said the bracha of Dayan Ha'emet, blessed be the true judge, which is the deep and impossible blessing that a Jew is supposed to say upon learning of a death. You say it when you learn about the death of a loved one. We kind of said it as a community to remind ourselves that although we're reveling in the return of the living, we were confronting almost as if it happened again, the catastrophe of those who died. And I was thinking that of the scenes that were taking place in Israel that day, there were some families who either actually or sort of conceptually were saying another bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Mechayeh HaMetim, thank you God for bringing back the deceased, which we say, and we said just a few seconds ago in our Amidah, because these are families who could not possibly have been confident that they would ever see their loved ones alive again. And so when someone that you expect may be dead comes back to life, you say Mechayeh HaMetim. But again, some families were in the Dayan Ha'emet mode. My cousin Shiri, whom some of you know, lost her son in the 1st January after the October 7th. He was a officer in the paratroopers and was killed in Gaza, was interviewed on TV that day, on Israeli TV. This is a woman who has shown tremendous courage and also a tremendously honest, broken heart over the loss of her son. And she was asked what she experiencing in herself that day, and she said that how I as a mother could be anything but on cloud 9 on behalf of the mothers who are getting their sons back. But I'm still in the mode where I'm recognizing that I'm never getting my son back. So she was in a Dayan Ha'emet moment. As a rabbi, I find one of the most awkward pastoral and rabbinic moments to work through and to lead through is when at a funeral we lead families through the blessing of Dayan Ha'emet. Every rabbi does it slightly differently. I normally do it right before the family tears their garment or the ribbon as a ritual to really confront what's happening. Traditionally, you're actually supposed to say it right when you hear the news. And the reason why it's awkward is that it's hard to tell a grieving family is about to bury their mother or their father or their spouse or their sibling or their child, God forbid. Hey, why don't you bless God right now? Why don't you offer a bracha right now? When what they most feel that they want to do might be the opposite, to rail at God, to curse God for stealing from them their loved one. I always do it, but I never feel like I do the moment justice because it's hard for me, and I like words, to find the right words to explain to someone who's in grief why they should be saying a bracha. I heard a beautiful, very creative interpretation of the Baruch Dayan Ha'emet blessing from my dear friend and colleague Rabbi Ed Feinstein. You know, we rabbis don't really get to see one another do our work all the time. So occasionally I am a guest at a funeral where a colleague of mine is officiating, and I learn so much about how other rabbis handle moments. And I was kind of in the close-in circle on what Rabbi Feinstein said to this family. I don't know if it's his standard that he says at every funeral, or he says it's just there. He says, what's the Dayan Ha'emet blessing God, who is the judge of truth? He kind of extracted the notion of truth from the moment, and without blaming God, which is what sort of the blessing is doing by having God be responsible as the judge of life and death, saying God is responsible for this death, Rabbi Feinstein said, this family is facing a new truth, a new emet, that they must confront. And we bless it not to say that we're happy about it. We're blessed to acknowledge that it's a very real thing, a very big thing. And that is the truth of the Baruch Dayan Ha'emet moment. I was thinking about that, his forcing and coaxing the family into confronting what's actually happening, when I came across another commentary this week from the same rabbi that I quoted to you, Lev, Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Pshischa, who was a great Hasidic master a couple hundred years ago. And Hasidic masters in particular love to play not only with the words of the Torah, but the letters of the Torah, as if the letters had their own animated spirit that could be disconnected from the words in which you found them. And he says, look at the Sofei Tevot, which is the last letter of the first three words of the Torah. We all focus, many of us know it by heart, the first three words of the Torah are Breshit, Bara, Elohim, which we translate as, in the beginning, God created. The last three letters or the last letters to each of those three words are a Taf for Breshit, the last letter of the alphabet. Bara ends in Aleph, the first letter of the alphabet. And Elohim, Mem, which is the middle letter of the alphabet, or one of the two middle letters of the alphabet. And if you rearrange those three letters, which he did in his imagination, he's basically saying that the Torah begins with three words, Breshit, Bara, Elohim, but what the Torah is hinting at in the last letter of those three words is the word emet, truth. And he said, you know how an author signs his or her book with their name so you know whom the book is by? He says the word emet hidden in the first three words of the Torah is God's stamp, God's signature, as if to say that the most important name of God, concept of God, is emet, or truth. As if to say the deepest and most important reality that the Torah wants to convey to all of its readers is that there is a God, that God created the world, that world has birth, that world has death, and that's an unmistakable and important emet, truth, hidden in those words that we have to know about if we're going to be able to make any sense of reality. It's a lovely way of finding emet in the first three words, and it reminded me of yet another teaching that always almost makes me cry when I think of it, from my dear friend and teacher, Rabbi David Ingber. He also is a magician when it comes to letters and words. I'd heard the word emet spoken 10,000 times before he exposed me to this way of looking at the word. He says, take the word emet and divide it into two, and you'll have everything you need to know about the truth of our existence. Because the first two letters of the word emet are aim, which means mother. We all had one. And the last two letters of the word emet are met, which means deceased, which is where all of us are headed to eventually. That is the most profound emet of reality, that we began with aim, from aim, and we are taking steps towards met. And the more clearly we can assimilate that emet, the more significance we can live with, and perhaps even the more joy. It's just true. It's just emet that is real. It's a question that we have to ask ourselves, not so much that we are paralyzed by it, but not infrequently enough that we forget it. When are we supposed to ask ourselves and remind ourselves of this? I would say every day. Every day that we have the blessing of being in the mem, in the middle, between the birth, the aim, and the death, the mate. It's a question that even and especially the freed hostages need to be asking themselves after they get through the first incredibly overwhelming days of realizing that they're still alive and back in Israel, what are they going to do with their mem? What are they going to do with their extended middle? I found some answers from some of what the hostages have shared since they came home. Gadi Moses says that the new purpose of his life is to rebuild kibbutz near Oz, where he had lived for nearly his entire life. And if he accomplishes that, then his life will have purpose. Emily Damari was quoted as saying, "I'm alive again. I'm alive again, my beloveds," as just she's experiencing emerging from an aim from a mother one more time, and as if to say her primary focus in this new mem, this new middle, is to be aware of the beauty, the ephemeral nature, and the significance of life. Liri Albag, who was released in a previous exchange, says that she has one primary goal now as she's getting used to her life, and it's a little bit surprising, or maybe it isn't if you understand the Israeli psyche. She said her goal is to return to serve in the IDF, to close the circle, to defend the land and the country and the people of Israel. These are people who have witnessed the miracle of somehow having evaded mate, death, at the end of the word emet, and have another chance at aim, of mother, of being born at the beginning of the word. They have physical recovery on a level we can't fathom. They likely have profound survivor's guilt. The trauma that they experience indubitably wounded their minds and their psyches beyond comprehension. All of that does need attention. But essentially, what is their task? The same as our task. As they hang out in this mem, in this middle of the truth of all life, they have to ask themselves, what do I do now? Some of you may have come across part or all of the following poem written by Linda Ellis. It's called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears, but said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we lived and loved, and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you would like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they said about how you lived your dash? Baruch Dayan ha'emet, indeed. Blessed be the one, the transcendent one, the inscrutable one, the unknowable one, the majestic one, the divine one who created this reality, the God who invented beginnings, the God who has no end but who imposes ends upon all of us. Bless that judge of emet. The aleph, the start, was gifted to us. We didn't earn it. The taf, the end, is looming. And we are all blessedly somehow still in the mem. And to quote President Jed Bartlett, what's next?